morning and welcome back to Sierra Foothills. Today is Earth Day 2020 and we're going to be observing the occasion by being good to the earth, cleaning up the earth, at least this part of the earth, the property. It's getting pretty out of hand. Things are getting a little bit messy around here. So that's one of our tasks for today. The other task is we're going to give a gift to the earth. We're going to plant some sage in the butterfly garden right behind us here. But I think most of the day will be spent cleaning up the property. It'll facilitate some other projects that are going on. I have a lot of stuff laying around, and some of the stuff is in the way of the deer fence that we're going to install, so it'll be the first domino to fall to kind of facilitate other projects. There's just a lot of stuff laying around. It needs to be cleaned up. It's long overdue. So I'll get going with that. And the planting, as I mentioned, also will happen today. And then we'll see what else Earth Day 2020 has in store for us. It's a beautiful day, and you know, we typically have wildlife sightings here and other natural activity. So let's get started with the rainwater and we'll go from there. You can actually see that the fulcrum, the pivot point of the load, is the rear axle. You can see the rear tires are fairly compressed and the front tires are hardly compressed at all. And in fact, this tractor is very back heavy right now. I can literally come up to the front end loader and you can see the whole tractor is bouncing up and down. So there's hardly any weight on these front wheels at all, which is not good either, which is why I scooped some crushed stone in here to give me enough weight that the front axle is touching so I can actually steer the tractor. And in fact, and I'll illustrate here for in a second, most tractors have split brakes. The rear wheels are braked, and in the case of this load where my front wheels are barely touching the ground, I don't have good steering. And so that's where the brakes come in. If I were to, for instance, to press the left brake, that would lock this left rear wheel and it would enable the tractor to pivot around the stationary wheel. And so that is how you steer a tractor when your front wheels are not gripping, either because the surface is muddy or there's not enough weight on the steering front axle. So yeah, this load is very, very sketchy. I'm steering it using the foot pedals because it's too heavy in back and not really heavy enough in front. But once again, that's a better situation than the reverse. Okay, let's move the water. A Cooper's hawk just flew into this oak tree here, and a bunch of birds scattered. So I've never seen a Cooper's hawk in this tree before. So short of me scaring it out of the tree, you won't see it. But they're a very interesting species. They fly very silently, and they're known to glide through dense foliage and nab smaller birds. Even though they're a fairly large hawk, they will silently glide at high speed through canopy and tree branches and prey on other birds much smaller than themselves. There was a study done on Cooper's hawks where they examined dead ones, and they found that many of them had fractures that had healed up, but apparently it's not uncommon for them to run into a branch and injure themselves, but they seem to be able to adapt and survive in spite of that. Really, really interesting species. So I don't want to get any closer because I don't want to scare it away, but that Cooper's hawk that we saw in the tree is at the bird bath. And that's what I thought it was looking at. When I drove by it and flushed it out of the tree, it was much lower in the tree than I thought it would be. And at that point I said, I wonder if it's looking at that bird bath. And sure enough, there it is. Word about tractor safety. Some of you undoubtedly notice that I'm in violation of certain safety protocols. Specifically, I'm not using this guy here. It's called a ROPS, or rollover protection system. It's basically a roll bar to protect you from getting crushed in case the tractor rolls over. The reason I'm not using it is because the task I'm using, hauling containers over here and putting them in the main water tank here, involves picking them up in an area where there's low tree limbs. And so I can't perform this task with the ROPS in the upright position. That's why I'm not using it here. If I were on hilly terrain and I had the ability to put it in the proper position, I would. So that's why I'm not using it. This would be a good time for me to give a shout out to my buddies at Tractor by Net, the Branson Tractor Forum. A lot of great guys there. Actually, they might be jerks. I really don't know. I've never met any of them, but they seem like real nice people in the forum. So I'd like to say hi to all of those guys. There's Slowpoke Slim, Lou in New York, Eric 979 in the Santa Cruz Mountains here in California. There's Pedro in Portugal, PTSG, I think he goes by. Texas Mark, of course. I don't know if I mentioned Lou in New York. I'm missing some other people. Some really great dealers participate. Astral, he's in, I think, Cattle Mills, Texas. And also the best tractor dealership in America, Dave's Tractor, in Red Bluff, California, where we got the Branson from. Just terrific people, and want to say hi to them. Assure them that I'm practicing good safety practices with the tractor. And my message to you guys is to do as I say, not as I do. Please observe all the good safety practices. All right, let's get back to moving the containers. So for those of you who've watched the various Rainwater Collection videos and rainwater tank videos that I've made, you know pretty much about these IBC totes, 275 gallons, and how we collected all this rainwater. And you know that the downspouts now empty into this container here, and there's a float switch in there, and when it reaches a certain height, that pump, wrapped in the white tarp, pumps the rainwater into that container there, 11,000 gallons. We are now taking the old system, this is 2-year-old water that we collected, and I'm consolidating all that water into the new tank. So, and we have ignition. So down here, it's pumping out of, and you can see quite clearly pumping in here. I'll set my alarm. It takes about 40 minutes to pump. The water level is right around here. And when it reaches this, the float switch will activate the pump, and the water that has accumulated in here will pump into there. We've reached a level in the IBC tote that the pump has been activated, and we are now pumping down this container. This is a purple martin box that was on a pole, and the pole got hit by a vehicle, and so we've reinstalled it on this lighting pole. For the last 2 years we have not had purple martin here, but we have had ash-throated flycatchers living there the last 2 years. They built a nest in one of the bottom units, and now you see a bluebird up there, and we believe the bluebirds are raiding the nesting material. That's what they're doing. They're going in there and they're taking nesting material to use in their nest. Because bluebirds are very, very specific about where they nest. You can get plans for bluebird boxes online and make bluebird boxes, but they have to fit very, very specific dimensions, and you have to install them at specific heights. So we're reasonably sure that these bluebirds are not nesting in the purple martin house. Earlier in the video I mentioned the interconnectedness of a lot of these projects, having to do them in parallel, and that's the way it usually is around here. You can see behind me there's a 550 gallon fuel tank, and there's a stand for it over my other shoulder. This has been on the property for a while. I bought it from my neighbor. I thought I was going to use it for the tractor, but after doing a lot of research on fuel storage, I've decided it'd probably be better to sell it. It was taking up space. It was unsightly. Because of the pandemic and the response to the pandemic of doomsday preppers and people like that, apparently the market for fuel storage tanks are really good, so we're gonna try to sell that on Craigslist. But the bigger part of all of these projects is, number one, to get them done, but also to clean up the property. One of the things that happens when you have property like this is, it happens to me. I shouldn't say it happens to everyone, but you have a tendency to store things, find things, and hoard things. And so I've gotten into that habit, and lately the place is starting to look pretty bad. There's a lot of stuff laying around, materials, plumbing materials, electrical materials, and I collect pallets and structural steel rebar, things like that might come in handy. And it's all just laying around, and it looks very untidy, so I'm trying to get that taken care of. Let's take a walk around the property and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll take you through the walk of shame here, tour of my personal mess. That's where the post hole auger. This is a 30-foot extension ladder. It's too big to fit in the garage. It actually fits in the garage, but it takes up way too much space. That's a plywood carry-all that I put on the pallet forks to carry brush around with. The old stair stringers. I got some rebar cylinders for future footings. Some pressure-treated lumber. 16, 17, 18 more containers to move. A car hood, which is good for skidding logs. That platform I built to hit golf balls from. This is my box blade. This is an old expansion tank. That could be made into a smoker or a cooker or more pressure-treated lumber. Some augers for the 3-point. Some nice pallets I picked up. That's actually rigid electrical conduit. There's some PVC electrical conduit. There's some PVC plumbing pipe. This will be made into a table. Cut off scraps, dimensional lumber, more very nice pallets, 10-foot pressure treated posts, cut-offs from the stairs, from the stringer project, delineators. These are 10-foot T-stakes for the deer fencing. This was all part of the original Rainwater Collection into the IBC totes. This we got for free. It runs. That's a finish mower for the big tractor, frame for greenhouse, small greenhouse, wheelbarrow, sorted odds and ends, rebar stakes, an old pot and pan rack, some planters. I've seen these made into bird baths, satellite dish, old tea stakes. They almost tripped over it. Rebar. When we replaced the well pump, this is the old wire that came out. This is leftover sonotube from the Ramada project. Yet more PVC plumbing pipe. Strut. Great building material. More rigid electrical conduit. Yeah, it just goes on and on. Cuties, celery, and egg salad sandwiches. Been keeping an eye out on the Purple Martin house. And we witnessed bluebirds taking nesting material from there earlier today, but it now appears that they're bringing nesting material there. And the lower right hand, that was one of the woodpeckers that just flew off. It looks like they're nesting there. It looks like the bluebirds are building a nest there. And I saw what I thought was an ash-throated flycatcher building a nest in the other side. Just so you know, there are 12 units, all separate, in that birdhouse. So it's turning into a little bird condo there. Looks like a clear violation of social distancing, if you ask me. Sitting here cowering in the shade. It's getting pretty warm here. And oddly enough, on this Earth Day, I have to go get some more earth. I've run out of soil, so in order to plant the sage, I'm going to have to go get some more soil. The product that we use is called Hippie. That's just the product that we use. It's the premium potting soil that they carry locally. Don't jump to any conclusions, don't make any judgments, but we need more Hippie. So I'll hop in the truck, go grab some, and we'll get back to planting the sage.
Sonny was a loner, bolder than the rest. He was going in the Navy, but he couldn't pass the test. So he hung around town and he sold a little pot. The law got wind of Sonny, and one day he got caught. But he was back in business when they set him free again. The road goes on forever and the party never ends.
Happy Hippie, bark. I don't know why I do that, but I do.
3 years have passed since she went away. Her son is sleeping beside her today. And I know that in heaven his mother he'll see. For God has heard the drunkard's plea.
Earth Day, we're going to be planting our sage plants here in what we call the butterfly garden. It's a boulder formation with some plantings and this old oak tree with hanging basket chairs. You can see some poppies have sprung up there. Down in the valley there's a lot more poppies. Up here in the hills they're just starting to blossom. But anyway, in the butterfly garden we have Baja fairy duster. Been struggling. This is a final permanent home for it. Hopefully it thrives. And we have that's the Baja fairy duster, butterfly bush, and butterfly bush. And we've planted native narrow leaf milkweed here, and there. So we're trying to plant everything that butterflies love, particularly monarch butterflies. So we'll be planting the sage in here to commemorate Earth Day. We have the 3 sage plants. We have performed the ceremonial cutting of the 3 gopher wire to make gopher cages. We have performed the ceremonial removal of the sage from the containers, and we are about to start this most hallowed moment of the planting of the sage. Yes, oh, dear Mother Earth, on this most hallowed of occasions, we beseech you to please accept. Got the property surveyed, so you're all trespassing. But because it is Earth Day, and we are all brothers and sisters on this great galactic spaceship passing through the cosmos. Well, we've hauled a lot of water and a lot more water still to haul. I think I got about 10 more containers over there, and they take about 40-45 minutes just to pump out, and that doesn't include the travel time back and forth. And we got the 3 sage plants in the ground. Real happy about that. It's always, every day is trying to find that balance between productivity and a little bit of enjoyment. You have to enjoy life. You have to find relaxation too. So it was bucolic but productive here at Sierra Foothills. This about wraps it up, I guess, and I hope you enjoyed your visit. And I hope you'll come and see us again real soon. In the meantime, happy Earth Day, and take care.